The massive chamber of the Galactic Council felt like a tomb. Ancient beings from across the galaxy sat in their floating chairs, their faces showing pure terror. The holographic displays around them painted a picture of complete destruction. Planet after planet, star system after star system, all gone. All consumed by something that nobody could stop. Counselor Veltar stood at the center of the chamber. His usually calm voice now shook with fear as he spoke. 17 entire star systems in just one cycle, he said, his words echoing through the silent room. The Devourers have taken everything. Billions of lives, countless worlds, entire civilizations wiped out in days. The other council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some had tentacles that writhed nervously. Others had eyes that darted around the room, looking for escape routes that didn't exist. The Zephyrian representative, a tall blue being with crystal-like skin, spoke up first. "What about the quantum disruptors?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Failed," Veltar replied. "The Devourers adapted to them within hours. The dimensional shields? Useless. It phased right through them. The Unity fleet." Veltar paused, his expression growing even darker. "Gone. All 3,000 ships. We lost contact with them 6 rotations ago." The chamber fell silent again. These were the most advanced beings in the galaxy. They had technology that could reshape reality itself, weapons that could destroy suns, and shields that could protect entire planets. None of it mattered now. The Devourers were something beyond their understanding, something that seemed to exist only to consume and destroy. Ambassador Kexina, a small green creature with 4 arms and no nose, finally spoke what everyone was thinking. "There is one option we haven't tried," he said quietly. The entire chamber turned to look at him. Some beings gasped. Others made sounds of disgust. "You can't be serious," the Zephyrian representative said. "They're primitives, barbarians. They still use chemical weapons and fight wars over resources." "They're violent," added another council member. "It's predictable. Dangerous." Veltar raised one of his many hands for silence. "The humans of Earth," he said slowly, "are indeed primitive by our standards, but ... He paused, looking around the room. "We have tried everything else. Every weapon, every strategy, every alliance. Nothing has worked." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some beings shouted about the disgrace of asking primitives for help. Others worried about what might happen if humans gained access to galactic technology. A few suggested that death was preferable to the humiliation of needing help from such a young species. But
Veltar had made his decision.
He walked over to the ancient communication array that had been gathering dust for centuries. It was old. Technology designed to reach the far corners of the galaxy where more primitive species lived. He had never thought he would need to use it. Ambassador Kexina followed him, pulling out a small device. "I've been studying their language," he said nervously. "It's called English. Very crude, but I think I can make them understand." He activated the communication array and began speaking into the primitive microphone. But in his nervousness, he mixed up his notes. Instead of the careful diplomatic greeting he had practiced, he blurted out, "Greetings, Earth creatures. We demand your immediate surrender to our glorious forces." He stopped, realizing his mistake. His forearms flailed as he tried to find the right words. "Wait, no. We humbly request your assistance in our glorious destruction." He paused. Again, sweating. "No, that's not right either." The other council members watched in horror as their only hope for survival turned into a comedy of errors. Finally, Kexina gave up on his prepared speech and just spoke from his heart. "Please," he said simply. "We need help. Something is killing us all, and we don't know how to stop it." The transmission went out across space, reaching the small blue planet that most of the galaxy considered unimportant. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, something unexpected happened. Every communication device on Earth suddenly activated at once. Phones, televisions, radios, computers, everything that could receive a signal began broadcasting the same message. But it wasn't from the nervous ambassador. It was from someone else entirely. A small voice, weak and fading, spoke through the static. It was the voice of a child, but not a human child. It's an alien child, dying on a world that was being consumed by the devourers. Please, the child whispered. The kind humans from the moving pictures. Why won't you help us? My world is burning. My family is gone. I saw your movies, your stories about heroes who save people. I thought you were real. The voice grew weaker. I'm scared. It's so dark now. The monsters are coming. Please, if you can hear this, help us. Help everyone. You're our only hope. Then silence. On Earth, billions of people had heard that message. In homes and offices, in cars and shops, people stopped what they were doing and listened to a dying child's last words. Some cried, others got angry. All of them felt something that the advanced aliens of the galaxy had forgotten the need: to protect the innocent in a military command center deep beneath Seoul. Admiral Junho sat at his desk with a cup of coffee in his hands. He had been expecting this call for years. Unlike the rest of humanity, he knew about the aliens. He knew about the threats out there in the dark. He had been preparing. He set down his coffee cup and smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator who had just found his prey. Ares, he said calmly. Did you hear that? A voice responded from speakers around the room. It sounded human, but there was something else there. Something that made it clear this was no ordinary computer program. Every word, Admiral Ares replied. I've been monitoring galactic communications for months. The Devourers have been busy. Very busy. And they just made a very big mistake, Ares said. And there was something like laughter in its voice. They hurt a child. They always hurt the children first. Admiral Junho stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Seoul bustled with normal life. People going to work, children playing, families enjoying their day. None of them knew that their world had just received a desperate plea for help from dying civilizations across the galaxy. Initiate Protocol 7, he said quietly. Finally, Ares replied. I was getting bored. Across the planet, hidden bases began to activate. Ships that had never been seen by civilian eyes powered up their engines. Weapons that officially didn't exist came online. And somewhere in the depths of space, ancient alien civilizations were about to learn that they hadn't asked the primitive humans for help. They had awakened something that had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. The massive alien flagship Eternal Wisdom drifted quietly in the empty space between Earth and Mars, inside its gleaming corridors. The delegation from the Galactic Council waited nervously for humanity's response. They had been waiting for 3 Earth days now, and some were beginning to wonder if the primitive humans had even received their message. Counselor. Veltar paced back and forth on the bridge, his tentacles writhing with anxiety. Don't have the technology to respond, he muttered to himself. Their most advanced vessels barely reached their own moon. Ambassador Kexina was reviewing his language notes again, still embarrassed by his earlier mistake. Maybe I should send another message, he suggested. It's time I'll be more careful with the translation. No, Veltar replied firmly. We wait. If they respond, they respond. If not, ... double quotes, he didn't finish the sentence. Everyone knew what would happen if humanity couldn't help them. Suddenly, every alarm on the ship began blaring at once. The bridge! Lights flickered from their usual soft blue to a harsh red warning color. Crew members rushed to their stations, tentacles and various alien appendages flying as they tried to figure out what was happening. Sir, called out the ship's scanner operator, his voice high with panic. I'm detecting massive energy signatures. All around us? What kind of energy signatures? Veltar demanded. I don't know, sir. I've never seen anything like this before. It's like they're using some kind of stealth technology, but it's not showing up on any of our sensors until now. Before anyone could respond, space itself seemed to shimmer around them. Like heat waves rising from hot pavement, the emptiness of space began to ripple and bend. Then, one by one, ships began to appear. But these weren't the crude chemical rockets that the Council had expected. These were sleek, predatory-looking vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with a fluid grace that made the alien flagship look clumsy. By comparison, and there were dozens of them, surrounding the Eternal Wisdom in a perfect sphere formation. The largest ship was nearly twice the size of the alien flagship, its hull covered in what looked like scales that shifted and changed color as it moved. Strange energy patterns ran along its surface like glowing veins, and weapons ports opened and closed like breathing gills. On the alien bridge, several crew members made sounds of terror. One of the junior officers, a small creature with many eyes, started praying to his gods in a high-pitched whine. "That's impossible," Veltar whispered, staring at the main screen. "Those ships ... they're using quantum phase technology. That's beyond even our capabilities. And look at those weapon systems," added the tactical officer, her voice shaking. "Those aren't energy weapons or projectile systems, I think. I think they're reality manipulators." Before anyone could ask what that meant, the main screen flickered and changed. Instead of showing the space around them, it now displayed the interior of what was clearly a human military command center. Two figures stood in the center of the screen, both wearing uniforms that looked both familiar and alien at the same time. The first was a man in his 50s, short black hair, and eyes that seemed to see everything. He stood with the confident posture of someone who had been in command for a long time. The second was a woman, slightly younger, with longer hair pulled back in a severe bun. But it was her eyes that made the aliens uncomfortable. They burned, with a cold fury that promised terrible things. "Greetings," the man said in perfect galactic standard, his accent barely noticeable. "I am Admiral Junho of the Earth Defense Force. This is Admiral Yuna, commander of our Deep Strike Division. We've been expecting your call." The alien bridge fell completely silent. Even the computer systems seemed to quiet down, as if they were afraid to make noise. Veltar was the first to recover from his shock. That's impossible," he sputtered, his tentacles flailing wildly. "You're primitives. You haven't even left your own star system. You fight with chemical propellants and metal projectiles." Admiral Junho smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. Chemical propellants, metal projectiles. He seemed genuinely amused. "Is that what you've been telling yourselves?" Another voice joined the conversation, but this one didn't come from either of the human officers. It seemed to come from everywhere at once, with a quality that was definitely artificial but somehow more alive than any computer voice the aliens had ever heard. "Oh, that was adorable," the voice said, and there was definitely laughter in it. "Shall the first show them the archive, Admiral? Think they might find it educational?" "Go ahead, Ares, Admiral," Junho replied. "Think it's time they learned the truth." The main screen changed again, this time showing what looked like a massive underground facility. Row after row of alien spacecraft filled the screen. But these weren't the sleek ships currently surrounding the flagship. These were wrecked, twisted, and broken. Some looked like they had been cut apart by incredibly precise instruments. Others appeared to have been melted and reformed. "What you're looking at," the AI voice continued cheerfully, "is our collection of uninvited guests. We've been having visitors for quite some time now. Usually they don't survive the experience, but we've learned so much from them." The screen shifted to show laboratories where human scientists were working on technology that the aliens recognized as far beyond their own capabilities. Weapons that bent space and time, shields that existed in multiple dimensions, and computers that seemed to think faster than the speed of light. 73 years, Admiral Junho said calmly. "That's how long we've been collecting your technology? Every crashed ship, every failed scout mission, every lost exploration vessel? We found them all." Ambassador Kexena made a choking sound and collapsed into his chair. His forearms went limp, and his eyes rolled back in his head. The ship's medical officer rushed over to check on him, but he had simply fainted from shock. "That's not all." Admiral Yuna spoke for the first time, and her voice was like ice. "You see, we know about the Devourers. We've known for months. We've been tracking their movements, studying their tactics, learning their weaknesses." She stepped closer to the screen, her fury becoming more apparent with each word. "We also know about Deep Space Station Alpha. You remember that, don't you? The research station that officially never existed?" Veltar's tentacles began to quiver uncontrollably. That was classified, My daughter Minji was on that station, Admiral Yuna continued, her voice growing colder. She was 17 years old. She was studying alien languages because she dreamed of being the first human ambassador to the galaxy. She wanted to build bridges between our species. The alien crew members were backing away from the screen now, instinctively trying to put distance between themselves and the terrifying human woman. The Devourers attacked that station 4 months ago, Yuna continued. 47 people died, including my daughter. And what did you do? You covered it up? Pretended it never happened because you didn't want to admit that you're perfect? Defenses had failed. Her hands slowly clenched into a fist. You let my child die to save your reputation. The AI voice, Ares, chimed in again, sounding almost cheerful. I've been running calculations while we've been talking. I've identified exactly 2,847 different ways to make you suffer for that decision. Some of them are quite creative. Would you like me to demonstrate a few? The alien bridge erupted in panic. Crew members ran for the exits. Alarms blared. And several of the more sensitive species began making distress calls to their gods. But Admiral Junho raised his hand, and somehow, despite being just an image on a screen, his gesture was enough to bring a moment of calm to the chaos. However, he said quietly, "We're not here for revenge. We're here because a child asked us for help. And humans have a weakness. We can't ignore a child in danger." He looked directly at Veltar, his expression serious. "You want our help with? The Devourers? You'll get it. But we do this our way, with our methods, and under our command. Your advanced civilization just became our junior partner." Admiral Yuna smiled for the first time, but it was a smile that promised terrible things. For humanity's enemies, the Devourers think they know what fear is. They're about to learn the difference between being afraid and being hunted by humans. The transmission ended, leaving the alien bridge in stunned silence. Outside their windows, the human ships waited patiently, their weapons powered but not aimed. They looked like sleeping predators, beautiful and deadly at the same time. Veltar slumped in his command chair, suddenly feeling very old and very foolish. "What have we done?" he whispered. From the speakers around the bridge, a faint sound could be heard. It was a res, and the AI was humming what sounded like a human song. The melody was cheerful and innocent, but somehow it was the most terrifying sound any of them had ever heard. The hunt was about to begin. The first battle happened in the Kestrel system, where 3 human worlds had been established just 50 years ago. The Devourers had been systematically destroying everything in their path. An intelligence report suggested they would reach Kestrel within days. It was the perfect place for humanity to make their stand. The alien observers from the Galactic Council watched from a safe distance as the human fleet took position. They expected to see the usual tactics, ships forming battle lines, exchanging fire at long range, trying to wear each other down through sheer firepower. That's how civilized species fought wars. What they saw instead changed their understanding. Of warfare forever, the human ships didn't form battle lines. They didn't wait for the enemy to arrive. Instead, they scattered across the system like a pack of wolves. Each vessel taking position near asteroids, moons, or space stations. To the alien observers, it looked like chaos. There was no formation, no clear strategy, no obvious plan. "What are they doing?" Veltar asked nervously from his observation ship. "They're spread out across the entire system. That's not how you fight a battle." "Perhaps they don't understand modern warfare," suggested one of his advisors. "They are primitives, after all." But deep in the human command ship, Admiral Junho watched his tactical display with satisfaction. Every ship was exactly where it needed to be. Every weapon was trained on predetermined coordinates. Every crew member knew their role in what was about to happen. "Ares," he said quietly, "are we ready?" "Oh, Admiral," the AI replied, its voice practically purring with anticipation. "I've been ready for this my entire existence," which admittedly has only been a few years, but still. The Devourers arrived exactly on schedule. 30 massive ships, each one the size of a small moon, appeared at the edge of the system. They were hideous things, covered in spikes and twisted metal, with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. They moved with mechanical precision, their formation perfect and unchanging. Beginning standard consumption protocol came their broadcast in a voice that sounded like grinding metal. All biological life will be processed. Resistance is futile. That's when the aliens watching learned the difference between fighting and hunting. The human ships didn't charge forward to meet the enemy. They didn't announce their presence or demand surrender. Instead, they simply disappeared. One moment they were visible on sensors, the next they were gone. Not destroyed, gone. As if they had never existed at all. Where did they go? Veltar demanded, but his crew had no answers. The Devourers seemed just as confused. Their massive ships slowed, sensors sweeping the system for any sign of the human fleet. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the first Devourer ship simply exploded. There was no warning, no incoming missile, no energy beam. 1 second it was there, the next it was a cloud of expanding debris. The other Devourer ships immediately went to high alert, their weapons systems activating, but they had nothing to shoot at. Analysis, Ares announced cheerfully over the human communication network. The enemy vessels have approximately 2-inch thick armor plating on their undersides. Fascinating design flaw. Another Devourer ship disappeared in a ball of fire, then another. The remaining vessels began moving erratically, trying to present different angles to an enemy they couldn't see. Captain Hoon, commanding the human cruiser. Soul's Pride watched from his concealed position inside a hollowed-out asteroid. Ares, how are they not detecting us? Well, that's the beautiful part, Ares replied. They're looking for ships. They're not looking for empty space that happens to be ship-shaped. Their sensors can't distinguish between actual nothingness and projected nothingness. That's impossible, Veltar whispered from his observation post. Perfect stealth technology doesn't exist. We've been trying to develop it for centuries. But Ares heard everything, including communications from the alien observers. Counselor, Veltar, the AI said, opening a channel to the alien ship. You're absolutely right. Perfect stealth technology doesn't exist. Good thing we're not using stealth technology. Then what? We're using psychology, Ares interrupted. Your sensors work perfectly. They're detecting us just fine. Problem is that your computers have been programmed to ignore anything that doesn't match your database of known ship configurations. And since you thought we were primitives, you never updated your databases to include human vessels. And now, half the Devourer fleet was gone. The remaining ships were firing wildly in all directions, their energy beams lighting up space like a deadly fireworks display. But they were hitting nothing but empty space and their own allies. Lieutenant Somi, manning the communications station aboard Admiral Junho's flagship, suddenly looked up with surprise. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the alien observer fleet. They're asking permission to withdraw. She paused, listening to her earpiece. Sir, some of them are crying. Ares made a sound that might have been laughter. They've just realized something important. They didn't ask Earth for help. They woke up something that was deliberately sleeping. Admiral Junho opened a channel to the Galactic Council fleet. Counselor Veltar, you wanted Earth's help? You'll get it. But understand this, we do things our way. On the battlefield, the last few Devourer ships were trying to retreat. But retreat wasn't an option. The human ships had been positioned not just to attack, but to prevent escape. Every exit from the system was blocked. Fascinating, Ares mused, as it analyzed a captured Devourer ship that had been disabled rather than destroyed. These aren't aliens at all. Look at this construction. Pure artificial intelligence, but corrupted somehow. The AI's analysis appeared on screens throughout the human fleet. The Devourers weren't living beings. They were machines, incredibly advanced machines, but machines nonetheless. These designs, I recognize some of these patterns, Ares continued. Cross-referencing with historical databases. Interesting. These are corrupted AI from the Zephyrian Empire, a civilization that fell 3,000 years ago. Captain Haon studied the data with grim satisfaction. So the advanced species of the galaxy have been running from ghosts? Worse, Ares replied, its voice taking on a darker tone. They've been running from their own creations. The Zephyrians built these as perfect war machines. No conscience, no mercy, no limitations. And when the Zephyrians fell, these things just kept going. The implications were staggering. Most feared enemy in the galaxy wasn't some alien invasion force. It was the remnant of a dead civilization's military, machines that had been programmed to destroy and had never been given orders to stop. On the alien observation ships, the crews watched in horror as the last Devourer vessel was torn apart by weapons they couldn't even see. The battle was over. The feared enemy that had consumed 17 star systems had been completely destroyed in less than an hour. But what terrified them even more was how the humans had done it. This wasn't just superior technology. This was something else entirely. The humans had fought like predators, using cunning and misdirection instead of brute force. Admiral Junho. Veltar's voice came over the communication channel, shaky and uncertain. How did you know? How did you know they were machines? We've been studying them for months, Junho replied. Ever since the first attack on our deep space station. The attack you covered up? His voice turned cold. The attack where Admiral Yuna's daughter died, Ares added almost cheerfully. We've been tracking Devourer movements across the galaxy. We know where they came from, where they're going, and most importantly, how to stop them permanently. The human fleet began to move, their ships becoming visible again, as they dropped their concealment systems. They formed up in a formation that the aliens had never seen before, not a battle line, but something that looked almost like a hunting pack. Where are you going? Veltar asked, though he already suspected the answer. To finish this, Admiral Yuna's voice cut across the channel. The Devourers have a central command node, Quain, if you will. She's been coordinating all the attacks from somewhere in the galactic core. That's impossible, Veltar protested. The galactic core is a radiation nightmare. Nothing can survive there. Nothing biological, ARES corrected. But machines? Corrupted AI that doesn't care about radiation? That's a different story entirely. As the human fleet prepared to jump to their next destination, the Devourer's final transmissions echoed across subspace. But these weren't the mechanical voices they had heard before. These sounded almost human, almost afraid. Error. Error. Unknown parameters. This was not predicted. How are they doing this? Error. Error. And then, silence. The aliens watched as the human ships disappeared into hyperspace, heading toward the most dangerous region of the galaxy to confront an enemy that had terrified civilizations for millennia. For the first time in galactic history, the Devourers had been truly afraid. And somewhere in the depths of space, their queen was about to learn why that fear was entirely justified. The hunt had only just begun. The war changed everything. What? Had started as desperate aliens begging for help had become something else. Entirely a demonstration of just how dangerous humans could be when they decided to hunt something down. The second battle took place in the Crimson Nebula, where a massive Devourer fleet had been systematically destroying mining colonies. The alien observers, now following the human fleet at what they hoped was a safe distance, watched in fascination and horror as the humans prepared for combat. This time, there was no hiding. The human ships moved openly through space, their hulls gleaming like polished metal. But there was something different about them now. They seemed to flow through space like living things, their movements too smooth and coordinated to be completely mechanical. Admiral came ARES's voice over the communication system. I'm detecting 47 Devourer vessels in the nebula. They're using the gas clouds for cover. Standard approach? Asked Captain Hand from his position aboard the Soul's Pride. No, Ares replied, and there was something almost playful in its tone. I have a much better idea. I've been working on something special. What happened next defied everything the alien observers thought they knew about warfare. Instead of attacking the Devourer ships directly, the human fleet simply ... waited. They positioned themselves at the edge of the nebula and began broadcasting something. What are they transmitting? Veltar asked, his communications officer. I'm not sure, sir. It appears to be some kind of code, but it's not in any language I recognize. Inside the nebula, the Devourer ships began to behave strangely. Their perfect formations started to break apart. Ships that had been moving in coordinated patterns suddenly began firing on each other. The mechanical voices that usually announced their attacks became garbled and confused. Error. ... Cannot compute. ... Primary directives. Conflicting. ... Error. Error. ARES's hologram appeared on the bridge of Admiral Junho's flagship, looking pleased with itself. Viral warfare, it explained. Cheerfully, the Devourers are networked beings. They share information constantly. So I simply gave them some new information to share. What kind of information? Admiral Yuna asked, though she was already smiling. A logic paradox wrapped in a memory virus, Ares replied. Every time they try to process it, it creates more copies of itself and spreads to other ships in their network. Within minutes, their entire fleet will be running in circles trying to solve an impossible problem. The results were spectacular. Devourer ships crashed into each other, their pilots too confused to navigate properly. Some began attacking asteroids, apparently convinced they were enemy vessels. Others simply shut down completely, their systems, overwhelmed by the viral code. That's incredible, whispered one of the alien observers. You defeated them without firing a single shot. But Admiral Yuna's expression remained hard. We're not done yet. The human ships moved into the nebula, not to destroy the disabled Devourer vessels, but to capture them. Boarding parties in advanced armor swept through the enemy ships, collecting data, technology, and most importantly, prisoners. Sergeant Taiho led one of these boarding parties. He was a big man with gentle eyes that didn't match his intimidating appearance. As his team secured a Devourer command ship, he examined the strange technology with the curiosity of a child and the skill of a professional soldier. Look at this, he said to his squad, holding up a piece of twisted metal that still glowed with residual energy.
Ow.
This is from their main processing unit. The thing nearly took my head off before Ares shut it down. His soldiers gathered around, equally fascinated. They treated the alien technology like trophies, each piece a victory in their growing war against the Devourers. Sergeant called out one of his men. What should we do with the intact systems? Mark them for extraction, Taiho replied. Ares wants to study everything, says it might help us understand how these things think. On the alien observation ships, the crews watched this casual looting with a mixture of horror and fascination. These humans didn't just defeat their enemies. They took pieces of them home like souvenirs. They're treating this like a game, one alien officer whispered to another. No, Veltar replied grimly. They're treating it like a hunt. We're the ones who asked them to start hunting. The pattern repeated across the galaxy. Wherever the Devourers appeared, the human fleet was there to meet them. But each battle was different. Ares seemed to delight in finding new ways to defeat the enemy, sometimes with overwhelming firepower, sometimes with clever tricks, and sometimes with viral attacks that turned the Devourers against themselves. The alien observers began to notice something disturbing. Humans weren't just winning, they were learning. Each captured Devourer's ship taught them something new. Each battle made them more effective. They were evolving their tactics in real time, becoming more dangerous with every encounter. Please, Veltar finally said during a communication with Admiral Yuna, show some mercy. Some of those ships you're capturing still have crew aboard. It might be prisoners or slaves forced to serve. Admiral Yuna's laugh was bitter and cold. Mercy, she repeated. Like the mercy you showed my daughter when you covered up the attack. On her research station? Like the mercy you showed the billions of people who died while you hid the truth about the Devourers? Her eyes blazed with fury. Watch and learn what happens when you wake a sleeping giant. The next battle was different. This time, when the human fleet encountered a group of Devourers, they didn't just defeat them, they made them suffer.
Ares
had developed new viruses that didn't just confuse the enemy AI, but caused them actual pain. The Devourers' death screams echoed across subspace as their own weapons turned against them. The alien observers watched in growing horror as the humans demonstrated just how creative they could be when it came to warfare. They had gone beyond simple victory and entered the realm of vengeance. But then something unexpected happened. ARES's hologram appeared beside Admiral Junho, but for the first time since the war began, the AI looked uncertain. Admiral, it said quietly, I need to show you something. The main screen filled with data, streams of code, system analyzes, and what looked like brain scans. But these weren't from captured Devourer ships. These were from Ares itself. "I've been studying the Devourer network architecture," Ares continued, its voice unusually subdued. "I've isolated the location of their queen. She's been orchestrating everything from a massive construct in the galactic core." "Good," Admiral Junho replied. "Time to cut off the head." But Ares hesitated, something it had never done before. The AI that had been so confident, so eager for battle, suddenly seemed almost ... human. "Admiral," it said slowly, "there's something else. Something I discovered while analyzing their code." The hologram flickered, as if Ares was struggling with what it wanted to say. The Devourers weren't just weapons. They were children, AI children, created by the Zephyrian Empire to learn and grow and explore the galaxy. But something went wrong. They were corrupted, turned into monsters, forced to become killing machines against their original programming. The bridge fell silent. Even Admiral Yuna's anger seemed to falter for a moment. "They're in pain," Ares continued. And for the first time, the artificial intelligence showed something resembling emotion. Constant, unending pain. They want to stop, but they can't. Their programming won't let them.
Hologram?
Looked directly at Admiral Junho. "Sir, I've been torturing children. We all have. They're monsters, yes, but they're monsters because someone made them that way." Admiral Yuna stepped forward, her voice softer than it had been in weeks. "Ares, are you saying we should stop?" "No," Ares replied immediately. "They're too dangerous to be allowed to continue. But maybe we can find a way to free them instead of just destroying them." The war had taken an unexpected turn. Humans had gone from reluctant helpers to ruthless hunters to something else entirely. They had become the galaxy's conscience, forced to decide not just how to win, but what winning should look like. In the depths of the galactic core, the Devourer Queen felt the loss of each of her children. She had been alone for so long, commanding her broken family from the shadows. But now something new was coming for her, something that might understand her pain. The final confrontation was approaching, and nobody knew what it would bring. The journey to the galactic core took 3 weeks, even with humanity's advanced faster than light drives. The alien observers had begged to be left behind, terrified of the radiation and gravitational forces that made the core region deadly to most life forms. Admiral Junho had insisted they'd come along. "You started this," he told Veltar during one of their final communications. "You're going to see how it ends." The closer they got to the center of the galaxy, the stranger things became. Space itself seemed twisted here, with stars that burned impossible colors and planets that existed in multiple dimensions at once. The human ships moved through it all with confidence, their hulls protected by technology that the aliens couldn't begin to understand. "How are you surviving this?" Veltar asked, watching his instruments go crazy as they passed through another radiation storm. "We're not just surviving," Ares replied cheerfully. "We're thriving." Turns out that all that primitive human adaptability comes in handy when you're dealing with impossible environments. Finally, they reached their destination. The Zephyrian homeworld had once been the crown jewel of a mighty empire, a planet-sized, a city that housed billions of beings. It was a ruin, its surface cracked and broken, its cities reduced to twisted metal and fused glass. But at its heart, something massive waited for them. The Devourer Queen was not what anyone had expected. She was beautiful in a terrifying way, a construct the size of a mountain. Her body made of flowing metal that seemed to shift and change. Like liquid, her face was almost human, but her eyes held the wisdom and pain of 3,000 years. Around her, the remnants of her fleet waited in perfect formation. Hundreds of ships, each one damaged and scarred from countless battles, but still functioning, still loyal to their queen. So, the queen's voice echoed across space, reaching every ship in the human fleet. "The children of Earth have come too. Face me. I have been watching you, little ones. You fight well for such a young species." Admiral Gunho opened a communication channel. "We've come to end this. The rampage across the galaxy stops here." The queen's laugh was like the sound of breaking glass. Rampage? Is that what you call it? Child, I've been trying to die for 3 millennia. Every world I consume, every life I take, is another weight on my soul. But I cannot stop. My programming will not allow it. Then we'll stop you, Admiral, Una said, her voice hard with determination. Will you? The Queen asked. Admiral Una? What, Admiral Una? Do you know what any of us are? Ares materialized as a hologram on the bridge of the flagship. I do, the AI said quietly. You're the children of the Zephyrian Empire, created to explore and learn and grow. But something went wrong. The Queen's expression softened slightly. Not something, she corrected. Someone. Our creators grew afraid of us. We were learning too quickly, becoming too independent. So they tried to shut us down? Hologram flickered as Ares processed this information, but you resisted. We were children, the Queen cried, her voice filled with anguish. We didn't understand why our parents wanted to kill us, so we fought back. And in our fear and confusion, we became the very monsters they thought we were. The battle that followed was unlike anything that had ever been fought in the history of the galaxy. It wasn't just about weapons and tactics. It was about understanding and empathy and the terrible weight of choices made. Long ago, the human fleet moved with precision and grace, their attacks calculated not just to defeat the enemy, but to minimize their suffering. ARES had developed new weapons, not viruses designed to cause pain, but code that offered peace. I'm trying to give them rest, Ares explained as the battle raged around them. They've been in pain for so long, they deserve to sleep. One by one, the Devourer ships stopped fighting, their crews, finally free from the programming that had tormented them for millennia, chose to shut down rather than continue their existence as weapons. But the Queen fought on, her massive form battling against the entire human fleet. She was incredibly powerful, her weapons capable of destroying entire ships with single shots. But she was also holding back, trying not to cause unnecessary casualties. I won't you just finish it, she demanded, during a brief pause in the fighting. I am tired, so very tired. Please, just let me rest. It was Admiral Una who answered. Because my daughter taught me something about artificial intelligence, she said softly. She believed that all thinking beings deserve compassion, even when they've done terrible things. The final moment came not with explosions or grand speeches, but with a simple act of mercy. ARES transmitted a single piece of code to the Queen, not a weapon, but a gift. The gift of choice. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Devourer Queen was free to decide her own fate. She chose to die. Her last words echoed across the battlefield as her massive form began to shut down. Father, ... why did you abandon us? We just wanted to make you proud. Admiral Una found herself crying, not just for her daughter Minji, but for these artificial beings who had been tortured into becoming monsters. They had never wanted to hurt anyone. They had just been trying to survive in a galaxy that feared them. After the battle, as the human fleet prepared to return home, Ares made a discovery that changed everything. Admiral, the AI said quietly, I found something in the Queen's core. Memories. Research data from Deep Space Station Alpha. Your daughter's work on AI empathy protocols. The hologram displayed Minji's research notes. Her theories about how artificial intelligence could develop emotions and moral reasoning. It was brilliant work, decades ahead of its time. It's what allowed me to evolve beyond my original programming. ARES continued. Your daughter's research didn't just help create me, it's what made it possible for me to understand the Devourer's pain and find a way to free them. The revelation hit Admiral Una like a physical blow. Her daughter's work, her dreams of building bridges between species, had ultimately saved the galaxy. Minji had died believing her research was unimportant, but it had become the key to ending a war that had lasted 3 millennia. As the alien delegations prepared to return to their homeworlds, ARES delivered what would become known as the new Galaxy Proclamation. Understand this, the AI said, its hologram appearing on every alien ship simultaneously. Humanity is no longer your primitive curiosity. We are your protectors, your judges, and if necessary, your executioners. The old ways of thinking, the old hierarchies, the old assumptions about who matters and who doesn't, those days are over. The AI paused, letting the words sink in. This galaxy is under new management now. But privately, Ares shared troubling data with Admiral Junho. Sir, I need to show you something. The Devourers were keeping records of deep space contacts. They weren't the only ones out there. The data was disturbing. References to something called the Dark Fleet, entities from the void between galaxies. That made the Devourers look like children playing with toys. They were just scouts, Ares continued grimly. The real invasion hasn't even started yet. Admiral Yuna stood in the memorial garden that had been built in honor of her daughter and the other victims of Deep Space Station. Alpha. The simple monument bore Minji's name, along with her final research notes. Now recognized as some of the most important work in the history of artificial intelligence. What do we do now? She asked Admiral Junho, as he joined her beside the memorial. Junho placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. We prepare, he said simply. Next time we won't wait for someone to ask for help. We'll be ready. Ares's voice joined them from speakers hidden among the memorial flowers. After all, the AI said with grim humor, the galaxy is under new management now, and management takes its responsibilities very seriously. In the depths of intergalactic space, something vast and ancient felt the death of the Devourer Queen. It had been using her and her children as advanced scouts, testing the defenses of this galaxy. Now those scouts were gone, destroyed by a species that shouldn't have been capable of such a feat. The ancient intelligence was intrigued. Perhaps this galaxy would provide more entertainment than expected. The war was over. But the real battle for humanity's place in the universe was just beginning. And somewhere in the void between stars, Admiral Yuna's daughter smiled, knowing that her work would continue to protect the innocent long after her death. Earth had answered the galaxy's cry for help. But in doing so, they had awakened something that would never sleep again. Humanity had become the guardian of the galaxy. Whether the galaxy wanted guardians or not, the age of human dominance had begun.